Pacific region. But let me let you in a little secret. I also enjoy quite a lot working with civil society. My background is from government, but before that, civil society, and I'm really, really happy to be here, especially in this topic, because fiscal openness is something that I did at the start of my career. It was a long time ago. I had black hair, I was thinner, and it was interesting because I remember waiting eagerly for the Congress to release the proposed budget. It was very new that they did it at that time, and they would release a PDF. And to start analyzing the programs in the budget, we would have to copy and paste the PDF into an Excel file. But they used to put a comma and a point before the 2 cents and a comma for the thousands. And we had to manually delete all of the commas and all of the dots. And it was one of the main concerns that we had, that when we were analyzing, we would make a mistake in this copying from PDF to Excel. And one of our first requests was, please, can you just give us, not even open data, we didn't even think about that, just can you give us the Excel file, please? So I'm really, really looking forward to hearing from the Asia Pacific region, to learning, and I see also this, and Shreya mentioned this beginning of, it's the start of a community that's starting to build around OGP in these topics, and I think it's very, very important that we have a community. A couple of weeks ago, I was in the Americas regional meeting in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And in Americas, we've been working on that for quite a long time. And I'm not saying there are no problems. Actually, there's a lot of problems. But the thing that helps the region is that there's this very, very strong sense of community within civil society, and it's starting to be also together with governments, that allows us to face some of these challenges. So I'm very, very happy to be here, very, very excited. I'm going to be moderating, so the way we have until 10:45. We will listen to presentations from all of our panelists, then we'll do a quick coffee break, and then each of you will work on your tables on things that you can do in each of your countries. Just so you know, next year about 80 open government actors, OGP actors, will be developing both national and subnational action plans. It is a very, very, very challenging year. We have, over the last 2 years, tweaked and improved the rules. We have improved the standards for co-creation. We will be providing more materials. The standards are higher, so you will have a lot of materials to ask for more from your governments and to ask for better and more ambitious commitments. And well, even Australia, Jack, myself, the whole OGP team, we're here to support you and to help you go for more ambition. Having said that, I'm not to extend too much, I would like to introduce our first panelist. Her name is Sally Torgert, Program Officer for Asia International Budget Partnership.
Thank you very much, Alonso. And thank you to everyone. I'm excited to be here. I've got a short presentation on some of the findings that we've had from the International Budget Partnership, specifically on opening budgets. But before I get into that, I just want to caveat it by saying I'm actually really excited to hear what everyone here has to say and the innovations that you're doing. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that we've been hearing about at IDP. But I think I'm very much hope that over the course of today I can hear from you all in terms of where you're taking big steps forward in terms of open budgeting. In the interest of time, I'm going to jump right into it. So I'm from the International Budget Partnership, and if you don't know us yet, we are an international NGO that focuses on fiscal transparency and open budgets. Our main, what I work on as the program officer for Asia is actually the Open Budget Survey, which comes out every 2 years and is an internationally comparable, independent assessment of fiscal transparency. And actually, just as a quick broadcast on that, we're actually launching our ODS 2017, the Open Budget Survey for 2017. It's going to be in January 30th, 2018, so fairly soon. And when we do that release, that actually has a lot of information. We have country by country recommendations in terms of how we think each country could improve budget transparency. So we hope, as you guys are planning your action plans for the coming year, you might take a look at that, because we do have some suggestions for each country that comes out with that report. So I'm going to jump really quickly and go into some basic background of what we have from our research in terms of why open budgets do matter. You know, why do they matter against, as you talked about, corruption, reducing corruption? Why does it matter for improving people's lives? Because that's ultimately what we're trying to get at. Looking at some of the challenges that we've seen over time in budget transparency and fiscal transparency, some emerging standards that are new that you might want to be aware of, and then just mention some of the best practices and innovations that we've seen. So I'll go ahead and get started. So just 3 quick points. I think everyone already, needs no introduction. Why do we need more open budgets? But it's good to go back to what do we know from the research, and this is just a quick synthesis of 3 points that we know from kind of cross-national studies. What happens when people open budgets? And we see 3 key things that happen. One is it's linked to more credible budgets, which is incredibly important if you're trying to say what a government actually plans is what it does. And if they're disclosing that information, you can actually see that link, which if they're hiding that information, well, no one really knows. So that leads to better projections on economic growth, on inflation, which is linked to how much debt the government feels like it can take. So there's a lot of linkages with that. Again, linked to that, that information on the projections and what they're doing, you have lower cost of borrowing. So as for example, sovereign debt gets floated on the markets, if you've got higher levels of transparency, the borrowing costs can go down. It's also associated with lower levels of corruption and the costs associated with that, and better accountability during elections of politicians who are proposing these budgets. And the final thing is there's improved allocations of spending in areas where people care about. We're talking about health and education, because now people know where their money's going. So the next step on this is okay, great, we all want open budgets. What does that actually mean in practice? What do you actually have to do to have an open budget? And at IBP, we look at 3 main areas when we do our own assessments of what is an open budget. We look at transparency, participation, and accountability. And transparency includes publishing 8 key budget documents online and in a timely manner. If they're too late, you can't really use them. And the amount of information that's included within the budget documents. So you see a wide range of documents that have everything you want and documents that have 5 sentences and a table. And what are you supposed to do with that? Then there's participation, which is how does the government seek input during the budget process, when they're formulating it, when they're implementing it, when they're doing the auditing of it and the assessment of it. When are people allowed to come in and have their say? And then the accountability systems and structures, which is usually oversight from either the legislature or the supreme audit institution, and how independent and strong are those mechanisms. So we assess all 3. And then, what are we seeing? And I'm going to start with the challenges and then go to the not so great story and then go to the better stories. We see some serious challenges over the years in Asia Pacific, but also across the world. I mentioned a couple examples in Asia Pacific just as to highlight. We're seeing a couple of things that are worrying in budget transparency. So since the OBS started in 2006, we've seen a general upward trend. Budgets are generally becoming more open. But there's a few things holding that back. One is that as countries are starting to publish more documents, sometimes there's steps back. So you'll have 1 year where they're publishing a citizen budget, and then the next year they stop. And I put another example, so you saw that in Azerbaijan. Recently they published a citizen budget, and then for some reason, when we're still trying to figure it out, they said, oh no, we're not going to do that anymore. So that's worrying. That countries that start pushing back when they release the document, so publishing something late so it's not very usable when it finally is released. And that volatility can really impact how usable the information is over time. You really want, that information released every year, every budget cycle. Another thing we're looking at is usability of information, where you have, again, I mentioned documents with not much in it, confusing documents that aren't organized very well, so you can't figure out what's in it. Documents posted on 16 different websites, so where do you find the document you're looking for? That's a serious issue, especially as more information becomes out there. And then the availability of information in a readable format. Alonso's description of copying from a PDF, because that's really real. If we want this data to be usable, if you want to translate it not just from a document, but to something that people can analyze and use and advocate for, you need it in a format that you can do something with. And that's why the standards are starting to move a little bit towards pushing for machine readability, what we call Excel files, CSV files, something that you can just import and analyze instead of a PDF. Slow down. I'm just slow down. Okay. Trying to get as fast as I can. Okay, flowing. Is we've seen that we started assessing participation a few years ago, and we've seen very minute improvements. Governments are often very closed in inviting groups or people to discuss budgets during the budget process, so we've got some issues still around that. So here are some emerging standards, very quickly. What makes a document open? So in the Open Budget Survey for 2017, we say that documents need to be published online. Previously, it was released as a PDF and hard copy, soft copy, that was allowed. We now no longer call that available. Everyone has websites, so people should use websites. We now have standards for public participation, so GIF standards on fiscal transparency. They were endorsed by the UN General Assembly, so we now have standards that people can read and pay attention to on that. And we've been including that in the Open Budget Survey. And on oversight and accountability, we now are also looking at independent fiscal institutions. So in the United States, one I know well is the Congressional Budget Office. So an independent institution that's assessing proposals on new legislation as they come out and providing an independent assessment of them. So here's, just very quickly, this is my last slide, just some examples, and I'm not going to go much into it because I think our colleagues are going to go much more in depth into their examples. But we are seeing some improvements over time, and it's really great to highlight that and to notice it. More documents starting to be published on time. Better comprehensiveness. I'm going to highlight a couple, but it's rare we see that, where more information is disclosed in a document, but it's incredibly helpful when it happens. And then another great trend is more citizen budgets. Governments working to kind of synthesize the information in the budget into a very usable format and publish that. So we're seeing a lot more of that, which is fantastic. We're seeing some excellent mechanisms for participation in fiscal policy. South Korea has we're highlighting a couple examples, a website where people can report budget waste that's actually reduced the cost of waste in the government significantly over the last couple of years. And in the Philippines, we also have budget partnership agreements. Just as an example, there's other mechanisms, but that's one. And then we're also seeing new, very strong mechanisms for oversight and accountability. I'm going to point at South Korea's NABO, which is their independent fiscal institution, which does a very good analysis of the budget every year, and the SAI in Indonesia, the BPK, which, according to international standards, is very independent and robust. So I'm going to stop there because we're going to get into our colleagues, but I'm happy to discuss everyone later and with everyone later about all the innovations that you're working on.
So to move forward for our national development. In my 5-minute presentation, let me concisely discuss the following. Next slide, please. The legal framework for participatory governance in the Philippines. One of the participatory budgeting program, which is the key the assistance to disadvantaged municipalities and the key features, and also our lessons learned and the ways forward. Next slide. Our initiatives are guided with the national and local framework for participatory governance. We have the highest fundamental law of land, which is the 1987 Constitution, which promotes the role of the civil society organization in order to promote our nation, and also to strengthen and to recognize the right of the people and the organization to effectively participate in the local governance processes at all levels, from the national down to the local level. And also, we have the local government code, which is a local framework that provide spaces for the civil society organization to be part of the decision-making process. So in the government, we have the Local Development Council, which the 25% of the Local Development Council come from the civil society organization. And we consider the civil society, we all know that we are also a watchdog, but we also ensure that we are partners for development. And recently, we all know that the Philippines is now on our transition from the previous to the current administration. And we're happy to share with you that despite of the political transition, the current administration created a participatory governance cluster that enable the people to provide a mechanism to strengthen the consultation mechanism for the civil society organization, the CSO development process. And now I'm going to share with you anchored in the principle of open and citizens engagement. We still continue to implement is good governance reform programs, and one of these are the assistance to disadvantaged municipalities. Before, it was known as the bottom-up budgeting. It's one of the awardee of the OGP last 2012. But however, the BUB was replaced by the new program, the Assistance to Disadvantaged Municipalities. But despite, while BUB is no longer a continuing program to implementation of the ADM, but it's important to note that the lessons learned and the experience from the BUB is considered in shaping the new ADM. So the ADM program actually is aimed to strengthen the civil society participation in the local development planning to further improve the LGU responsive. And also we want to, the ADM also made in partnership with Sesion People's Organization. Next slide. We have the 5 governance roadmap, but it's important to note that we ensure here the civil society participation in local budgeting process. Next, in order for us, next slide, to implement a locally funded projects in order to contribute participatory governance. And for my remaining minutes, I will share with you, next slide, the key features of ADM, so the CSO selection, the evidence-based planning, the capacity building of stakeholders, not only the government, but also the civil society organization, and the third-party monitoring and the citizens' feedback. And while implementing this program, we're happy to share with you our lessons learned. So, strengthening the civil society coalition so that they contribute to undertake programs, projects that promote meaningful citizens' participation for open, transparent, accountable governance. Like all NGOs as a CSO coalition, we work for this kind of engagement. So we still demand from the citizens, other sectors, for the government to keep its commitment to provide spaces for engagement. So there's a demand from the civil society organization. And also need for political will, so the support coming from the champions, from the government. So it's not only about the openness of the government, but also the willingness of the government to pursue this meaningful participation. And inclusivity at the policy level is important. No one should left behind, especially in the policy making or decision making in the government. And the way forward, we want to create more enabling environment for the CSOs in the local planning and budgeting process. We continue to support for the capacity building for LGUs, the local government units, and the CSOs. And of course, we should also to strengthen partnership not only locally, nationally, but also globally to harness international support for the programs and projects, and of course to learn from the experiences by the civil society in the various countries. And that's all.
Thank you for inviting me here and to share with you my experiences. So very briefly, just to the next one. Yeah. Okay. In terms of our work on open budgets, happened some years back when we were introduced to the International Budget Partnership. I think, we've kind of exposed to that back in 2005 or 2004. So from there, the organization I work with, in short, is CIMC, being the platform for dialogue, have that opportunity to champion or promote a team. What it does is to provide a particular platform. It runs annual and national, regional and national development forums for everybody to come together and talk about issues in terms of development, so they can improve existing policies or to design new ones and monitor implementation of those policies. So while doing that, during that 3 years, we've been promoting opening up the budget process. So one was looking at how the government generates its revenue. Second was how it budgets, and third was quitting back of the expenditure. That was really influenced by the movement from the International Open Budget. And when we found out from the engagements, what we've seen was there was significant information gap at the community level, and whatever was happening at the national level in terms of central agencies doing budgets and all that was not, they had no idea, citizens had no idea of what was happening at the national level. So from there we came up with this open budget initiative, and so I'll just walk you through that. Thank you. Next slide, please. So just in short, what CMC, it's a platform it's really a partnership. Government, civil society, private sector coming together freely to openly discuss and critique on government policy. Even though it is set up by a government decision, it really operates on a civil society platform, so out of government kind of thing. So it freely generates that particular dialogue for everybody to come together. So in terms of open budgeting, those are the things that we do, we've been doing in terms of at the district level or community level. So basically 4 things that we've done. Expenditure tracking, trainings at the sub-national level, really to empower community leaders about what the budget process is, how much of that money is going to their local level government or ward levels, so that they can hold their political and decision makers accountable for the decisions they do in terms of improving service delivery. Second bit of that is service, what we call service charters. I'll take you through that when we go, get to the next slides. And then we have also initiated a, sorry, back to the first slide. Yeah, annual civil society roundtable dialogue, which was really coming out of the discussions on open government budget partnership. So that's about 2 years ago we've done. And then our ongoing promotion on the in terms of recommendations that are coming out of the open budget index ratings as well, and benchmarking that in terms of influencing the others. So service charter is really a tool targeting civil society people at the, or community leaders at the grassroots level, at the district level, to empower them on budget information. How much is, for example, how much in the last 5 years have you got? So how much of that did you see in terms of actually tangible service delivery things? So it's really like provoking them to understand and be informed, and then hold their local leaders accountable and question them, and where to go from there if they want information about money, and how, if a service is not delivered, then where do you go next to get information. And these are I'm just giving you illustrations of what we do, because we all are diverse in terms of the countries that are meeting here. We all not the same, so our development progress and all of that is different. And for us is like we can't go specific, but when we go to a community, it's like integrated. You have to go with all the things that you have to do. For example, just general awareness on looking after the things that the public is providing, because that's not coming from the politician, or it's coming back, coming from your tax that you paid under GST, or from the taxes that you pay. So you have to look after that well. So it's about combination of basic things, creating that awareness and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's go. And this is another illustration. So what kind of money do you get from your budgets, annual budgets, and taking them through that process as well too. Next. And who are your beneficiaries? So just making them realize that those services benefit who and who. So coming back to basics in terms of making them aware of where the money is going. And so when we go through that, we do also work planning, helping them to get them to do work plans and prioritization of their activities, and that sort of thing in the training. And these are some results that we got from our work. So some featured. So we do have community monitoring groups working at the districts that we have covered, and some results that we got from the newspapers as a result of the work that our community monitoring groups investigate and then put them, like some of them ended up in prisons and things like that. So our service charter is another program that we are doing, and it's just bringing everybody together to understand who is supposed to be doing what in terms of realizing the basic responsibility to provide a service. And everybody has to know that has a public. So some, you know, for example, if a mother is going to the airport, then that person has to know through with the service charter who is responsible for what to provide that service. So go to the next one. So that's an example of what we have done. So we link the service to the budget at the particular level, so at the service level, facility level. So we've done courts, so law and order courts is pinned on public notices so that people know who is responsible for what in terms of, and how much money is going to fund that particular service. Next, please. These are just pictures of what we have done in terms of our activities. Thank you. Let's go. And those are some pictures that we've got in terms of achievement. And this is the budget roundtable dialogue. I'm just giving you illustration for this year. We have come together and to make everybody inclusive in terms of having a say in the issues. We've got these 6 issues, recommendations that we put as position paper to the new government. We had new election in 2007. July was the end of, and we got a new government. So what we've done was we put this position paper and then submitted to the new government for consideration. So just last slide is so our challenges. I think I agree with Philippines and Philippines that political will is important. We face language barrier, cultural diversity. When you mean something, we got 850 languages and cultures. So we understand different things at different levels. So that's a barrier, and then we lack kind of the legislative policy at the higher level. Environment is provided through our constitution and enabling legislations. But in terms of really practicing and getting the political will to support this particular agenda is not really there for us. Just go back to the second page. And we don't have capacity for civil society to grow. Civil society actors are very, very, very limited. We have no capacity. We have big constraints in that as well, because of the fact that only few acting at the national level, but really very little or nothing at the lower level. So it's a big challenge on us. And that's TIPNG, one of those things that we do annually as well. So with that, I think that's good. Yeah, thank you very much.
Own revenue is generated by the local authorities, which is amounting through one of our recent studies about $130 million US. So this money, where it goes, right? How much is allocated for what purpose and who benefits, and it's very critical to kind of see the answers of this much of resources, which are exclusively generated by the local government from the public. This amount I am talking about actually other than the government transfer. Next slide, please. So, giving a little bit of overview, right, in terms of Sri Lankan local authorities, so we have a sort of a positive enabling environment right now because of the, after 2015 there's a regime change, and the current regime is more kind of actually, promoting the civil society and, public engagement in overall political sectors. And also Sri Lanka is, I think, one of the early members. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the only country in South Asia OGP signatory, I believe. And also we have a very strong RTA Act, which is enacted last February. I think it's ranked the third, best RTA in the world. And also the existing opportunities, if you look at the local authorities, we have established process and also very good documentation, and also reasonably well supply side initiative, because there is a policy, there is a planning and budgeting process is designated defined by the Ministry of Local Government, and which goes down to the local authorities, and also very good, very much encouraging innovations. There are many examples of using ICT, and there are uh, the local authority budgets. They're using key budget indicators which actually sort of giving guidance for the local authorities to allocate rationally the own revenue. So this is sort of an overview. Uh, so the challenges, so we don't have actually from 2015 no political representation, which is one of the large challenges. But some people actually refer this as an opportunity, but we believe the political lack of political representation is a challenge, and we need to kind of expect this newly elected councillors going to be trained, and they need actually more awareness about the because a lot of people are going to be new for the field. They need awareness on open government. Uh, See, our budget is mostly on budget allocation, but we need efficient and effective budget tracking mechanism, which is in a way weak, and also the weak institutional capacities of the monitoring agencies, which is again the government agencies. They are weakness in monitoring. In a way, allow the local authorities to kind of actually sort of improperly use their own revenue, and also the limited role of civil society in budget advocacy, which is in a way Sri Lanka is a conflict affected. We recently come out with the conflict situation. Still, we are sort of recovering, because most of our civil societies were functioning on relief and rehabilitation mentality, so that there's sort of a need for the civil society to transform. And also this budget literacy is our other issues, because many people are not sort of aware. If I quickly touch upon the lessons learned, I think that it's critical to use the existing opportunities which is already the government has put in place. So if we use those, I think we can sort of actually we will be having minimum pushback from the political leadership as well, because they need to abide those the government regulations. Uh, the one other lessons learned. So we try to kind of use the technology and linking the citizen satisfaction of the local authority services in order to promote or prompt the local authorities to open their budget and also rationally allocate the resources, which has proven actually many positive results. I'll actually quickly give a small case study, so then just to give go to the next. So it's one of the local authority in the northern part, which is actually war affected area. So they introduced many initiatives to open their budgets, because when they started after the war with the fresh elected officials, they found difficulties in increasing their revenue and had the budget consultation. They even actually eliminated the budget summaries, because normally the budget comes in 150 pages, no people can understand, so that it's a very simple document to give out the key messages of that. And also they have introduced a mechanism to which is called the citizen report card, which is a sort of a proven method, but we use that through technology, and this has been clearly used to kind of enhance the citizen participation. So through these measures, they were managed to kind of go to next year. So they were able to increase the own revenue over the years in a massive way. So it's one of the success story. So in terms of next steps, I think the civil society awareness, as I told you, so we are coming out of the war situation and need greater awareness in terms of budget literacy, and proactive disclosures by local authority, which is again a mandatory mandate under RTI, and the budget literacy. We are trying to actually get the ICT for that. And also focusing on budget tracking, because it's not just budget preparation is critical, but budget tracking, and especially the budget expenditure tracking is critical. Thank you.
My discussion will focus on how to create constituencies of support for fiscal fairness. I'm from Omar Aslam Khan Foundation, and just very quickly, we are an advocacy organization that was formed in 1999, and our main focus is to look at citizenship rights and democratic reform. I say that because want to just stress that our work on open budgeting is within the framework of looking at how to strengthen democratic systems and looking at how citizen rights can be. So we have a very rights-based approach to this whole work. I think in terms of, I'm following very strictly what Maulana had sent that you are. So what are the kind of approaches? And here, because of the 5 minute, so I'm just going to give you some snapshots of how we do this. And I want to say that this is not mandatory, but we find in our work, our partnerships with people is really absolutely central. That you have your feet on the ground, you understand how budgets actually impact people, and you begin from the perspective of the people. So I think to us that has been very, very important. I think a lot of what I'm saying is not new to everybody, but just want to share what we've done in terms of. Uh, I think we have found that generating robust data is absolutely critical. But with the robust data, there's also the question of relevant data. I find sometimes I look at budget work which creates more data than is required and may not actually be relevant. So can we go back to the previous thing? So when we look at budgets, what angles to pick up and whether those angles are actually relating to people's lives is something that I think is most important in good budget work and in connecting budget work with both people's lives and better policies. Uh, so, for example, we have looked at questions of poverty, and the way we've looked at poverty is to understand how development funds are distributed within a province to different districts, and that is where we have discovered the inequity and the ad hocism in distribution of resources. But equally, I should say that it's not just robust and relevant data, it's also how data is presented. The graph can be something that most people here might understand, but we've also used animation to try and project that data to. So looking at how some people get more and some get less on resources. Yeah? I have found in the budget work most important is to also suggest solutions. I find a lot of budget work focuses on identifying problems, and so you will have things like so much is being spent on education over the past 20 years, and I think a lot of people know that there is less investment in social sectors. The real in my mind, is to try to start suggesting solutions as we did in Pakistan, how you can bring greater equity in distribution of development funds at the subnational level. We found that creating the data is important, but it's also popularizing the data through different mechanisms, and I think all of this is not new to people in this room. Engaging champions, I think is important, but when we are engaging champions, I think the real essence is that your ability to choose and to identify the champions. So whether they are legislators, they are media, they are civil society organizations who really will make an impact. I think to me that has been most important in terms of successful budget work. We can do a lot of planning, and I think all of us around this room here know that creating LFAs and all that is most important. But I find really seizing opportunities when they come up is critical. Very quickly, also, further the picture of that beautiful complex is a health center. that was dysfunctional for more than 10 years in an extremely poor district of Pakistan. There was we were trying to look at budget allocations, engaging with government, creating pressure for more than 10 years, and it was all adding up. And then suddenly, last year, when there were excessive rains in the area, there was public attention to it. We got in the media, got in people to talk about it. Very happy to say that we were able to get part of it functional. So I just want to give the sense that we can make great project plans, etc., but we really need to be on your feet and ready to seize an opportunity if it comes up. Results. I think all of our work put together, we have been successful in our country. We are a federal system of governance. We have and we I work in one project province, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So we have been able to influence the public finance management strategy in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So some of the work on equity, etc., has been included in that policy document. Implementation will, of course, remain a continuing challenge. Similarly, we are part of the open budget survey with IVP for long, and have been able to also influence the national plan of action for the open governance partnership. So, in a sense, I think the fact that our work we have been able to bring into these documents is an opportunity to move forward. At very local level, through our social accountability work, our budget advocacy, there have been some changes in government services, like the example that I gave you. Also, I think most important in our context is that increased engagement between citizens and the government around the question of public service delivery, government performance has been increased through this work, and I think that's most important. And I think just explaining the white ones, we feel is more the immediate or the medium term results, and the black ones we find is the more long term, where we talked a bit about political will, and just quickly highlight that in our kind of societies where there's a lot of patronage politics, patron-client relationships, I find that this work is beginning to shift the citizen-government relationship of how the governed and the citizen relate. I think this has helped improve slightly our parliamentary debate. We have a long way to go, but I think giving input on how to improve parliamentary debate in our areas. I think there's a lot of sense on accountability, but this kind of work helps give a direction to accountability when you are able to push solutions rather than just looking at problems. I think the work of civil society has strengthened. We do a lot of advocacy work, but budgets give you a little amazing focus on how to improve people's lives, and expanding diverse constituencies. This is my last slide also on the challenges and next steps. So I think in terms of challenges, we continue to face narrow interests. There's in every stakeholder, there's that quick fix mania, whether it's politicians or donors or even civil society. Can you bring in the change tomorrow or in the next 3 years or the 5 years? And it just doesn't happen like that. I think that's a continuing challenge. I think the fact that some other people talked about, very happy to be here in our constituency, and a growing constituency of budget advocates, but it still needs more. I think there are not enough voices talking about the budget transparency. I think I'm very happy that Sally talked a bit about why open budgets matter. But I think we still need much more demonstration of how does that impact. I love the slogan of open budgets transform lives, but we need to show how it actually transforms lives. I think we haven't got to that point. Just talking about narrowing, borrowing, or looking at better budget management, still we need to translate that into showing how it affects people's lives. I think the question of political will to me is within the context of situations like Pakistan, where we are a democratic country, but we would best describe ourselves as a transitional democracy, where patronage politics is very, very strong. So does it really matter if you have an open budget? Governments and political parties don't get elected on better budget management. They get elected on the number of roads they are making and how pretty the roads are, etc. And so on and so forth. On the positive side, I think there is more. There's more, I would say, a strident call for accountability, but yet more rhetoric and less looking at reform. So in our case, there's a lot. We just had one of our elected prime ministers was dislodged on the question of accountability. But it doesn't go deeper into looking at accountability as a form of reforming the system. It's a more rhetoric. There is a lot of public focus on government performance. We have an upcoming election in 2018, so we'll see how that plays out. But the patronage politics still overrides the questions of government performance. Civil society capacity is building, better coalitions coming up, so a lot to be more hopeful for. Thank you very much.
So I would like to share our experience, Pachiro, in promoting fiscal transparency. So in Indonesia context, there are some information that I think it's important to be shared. The first one, Indonesia has enacted law number 14 2008 on public information disclosure. So the law has mandated the public agency to establish a public information officer to provide public information, as well mandate the establishment of information commission at national and provincial level. And Indonesia implemented decentralized government. The layer of government, including the national government, provincial, district or regency, sub-district, and village level. And then the third one, Indonesia has enacted law number 6 2014 on village. So the law provides the autonomy to the village government to manage the village, and the village get the fund increasing significantly from the regency and the national government. So this situation encouraging the village transparency at the village level is important to be done. Next slide, please. Next. So Pachiro we established in 1999, and we have the three focus area. The first one, public service delivery. The second one, transparency, and the third one, public finance management. Pachiro work on two levels, in society level or community level, demand side and supply side. Next slide, please. Our experience in promoting fiscal transparency is categorized in 5 stages. The first stage in 2000 to 2006, we focus on participating in coalition for freedom information to advocate the freedom of information law. So at the community level, we facilitate and strengthen the community center to the forum for the community to raise their awareness and provide capacity building about their right on public information. and public service delivery. And in stage 2, 2007, 2008, we continue our effort to facilitate the community center to make a test, to communicate, to encourage the community center to conduct advocacy by access the information to public agency. And the lesson learned is used to strengthen the advocacy at national level. And in third stage, we strengthen the public agency in establishing public information system, service system, because in third stage, the law has been enacted. And in the fourth stage, it's a massive implementation because we replicate our experience in the some agencies to 5 provinces and around 16 agencies. We also conduct role as the Secretariat of Foreign Network, the coalition of CSO in Indonesia on public information, as well as CSO 14 Secretariat of OGP, and we also get support from the Ford Foundation. Pak Alexander Inwan is always support us about in this issue. And in the fifth stage, yes. So this is the lesson learned. CC, we learned that CC is an effective learning center for people on the issue of the transparency, and we learned also that a constructive engagement between the CC and the government is an effective advocacy strategy rather than a face-to-face method. And establishing the coalition among the civil society is important. And then lesson learned in the public agency, the implementation of the law has changed the mindset from closed mindset into the open mindset, and word is effective to motivating the public agency to provide the public information. And then pressure for the demand side is important to make effective implementation, providing the information service of the public agency. And then this is the lesson learned in the commission information. Community participation also important to ensure the effectiveness of the provincial commission information, as well as the support from provincial government is one of the key factor of the effectiveness of the provincial information commission. So this is the benefit as we learned from the Indonesia of Freedom of Information Act. The first one, budget document that we got is used by the CSO to conduct advocacy, to develop the citizen budget as public campaign tools to raise the awareness of the community, also to be analyzed as the material of policy brief, and the information openness also providing opportunity to the community and the government to interact each other and make the synergy between the community and the government. Thank you.